What is the worst case of princess behavior you've ever seen? I worked with a girl who had a daughter that she had in her teens. She was dating the father and had just become pregnant again. They were both working to put themselves through college and support their children. He proposed to her and she told him no because the diamond was too small. I used to have a cubicle across the walkway from where all the contractors in my department sat. My department only does temp to hire, so they are mostly kids straight out of college. I was about to be married, as was the woman who sat in front of me, so a lot of wedding chatter going on around lunchtime. We overheard this princess-type temp talking to one of her friends as they walked by saying that she wouldn't ever accept a proposal if the ring presented was less than a full carat diamond. My coworker and I had a good laugh about that. The girl was young and pretty, but such a snobby attitude. Asterisk carat, not carrot. I work at a clothing store. One night 15 minutes before closing a group of 4 come in. I proceeded to tell them we were 15 minutes before closing. To which one of them replied, "We will only take a minute." Nope, not a minute. Not even 10. They left the store 40 minutes after closing. All because the daughter, whom I presume was in her mid-20s, needed to find an outfit for a photo shoot. The entire time she was in the changing room she would throw the items she didn't feel good in at one of my associates. When she finally decided she wasn't gonna purchase anything, she had left a whole rack of clothing, which if we were still open wouldn't have been an issue, but after 40 minutes of being closed the other associate and I had already finished recovering the store for the night. She finished it off by complaining to her boyfriend that it was his fault she didn't like anything because he didn't compliment her in any of the items. She literally stomped out with her arms crossed and pouted. I work at a library, and someone wanted a library card. Okay, great, just fill out this short application on this kiosk, takes only a few minutes. Simple stuff like name, address, birthday, email, etc. She didn't want to. Can we do it for her? It's too much work. Now, if someone has an actual reason to ask us to do it for them, we can enter all of that manually, no problem, but in this case, she told my coworker I don't want to do all that work, and my coworker said I guess you don't want a library card then, either. If she can't fill out a form I would guess that returning books would also be too much work. Edit, fork to form. I was in the line waiting for the Hulk roller coaster at Island of Adventures in Florida. There were these 2 teenage girls in front of me. When they got to the front of the line, they asked to be sat in the very front row. There is a separate line dedicated for the first row and the park employee told them this. They kept showing the employee their fast passes and demanded to be sat in the very front row. The park employee sat them in the very last row instead and both the girls threw a temper tantrum. I couldn't really believe it. We were already in the fast pass line, so instead of waiting 2 hours, we only had to wait about 30 minutes. I got the idea that the girls weren't used to being told no. I was in the line waiting for the Hulk roller coaster at Island of Adventures in Florida. There were these 2 teenage girls in front of me. When they got to the front of the line, they asked to be sat in the very front row. There is a separate line dedicated for the first row and the park employee told them this. They kept showing the employee their fast passes and demanded to be sat in the very front row. The park employee sat them in the very last row instead and both the girls threw a temper tantrum. I couldn't really believe it. We were already in the fast pass line, so instead of waiting 2 hours, we only had to wait about 30 minutes. I got the idea that the girls weren't used to being told no. My 17-year-old coworker is a spoiled little brat. She's a cashier, and if the queue gets too long, both of us have to go on till to serve. Yet instead she hides in the kitchen and leaves me to a massive queue. Oh, and every time I take my break and we're both on shift together, she hides under the ice cream machine for the entire 30 minutes rather than serve customers. She used to pull me off my break to please serve them every 2 minutes until I told her to do it yourself and she chucked a scream-crying tantrum. How is she still your coworker? She must pull this with other people. How does she still have a job? There was a girl in my university who wanted an on-campus job to cover her expenses. She threw a fit when the receiving department did not select her. No bias against her. She complained to the school and reported the receiving manager for being and not giving the job to a girl who has never lifted anything apart from her handbag. The manager did budge and hired her. She stormed out 2 days later, calling the department unfair towards women who couldn't lift 20 pounds every day. The very reason bona fide workplace requirements exist. I watched a college princess empty an entire shelf of wine Hulk style at Bevmo. At 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Because they couldn't sell her a pack of Corona. First, she was upset because she cut in line and everyone was bullying her for it. She was frustrated nobody understood why her time was more precious than ours. Then, the cashier was being racist because he couldn't sell her the beer. Couldn't, not wouldn't. She was under 21, US. They're both white, BTW. She starts to whine and stomps her feet like a child. When that doesn't work, she starts crying and pulls the "they always sell it to me at the other store" card. Cashier is done with college princess. He calls out the manager. The manager tells Princess she will not be purchasing alcohol that day or any other day until her 21st birthday. It was like the manager said the incantation to summon a banshee. Princess let out a screech that could be heard 2 states away, ran over to a full shelf of wine, and started slamming every bottle she could reach onto the floor. By the time the police came, her legs and feet were covered in blood and glass. All because they wouldn't break the law and sell her beer. There was a girl I knew in college, sorority sister of my girlfriend at the time, who has been dating a guy since high school, who attended another university in town. They were likely to get engaged when they graduated college, and she stated that she was demanding a 2+ carat ring, even if it meant her father had to pay for part of it. Her future husband was going to be an engineer and came from middle-class family, so such a ring would be an exorbitant expense. She came from money, as her father was some bigwig doctor in Miami. My cousin was given a brand new Mustang on her 16th birthday. She demanded that my uncle return it and get another one because she didn't like the color. So he drove 3 hours away to another dealer to get her the color she wanted. She refused to go with him because she had better things to do. None of this is surprising, because she's been catered to her entire life. However, my uncle, who is a really laid-back and funny guy, made a pit stop at a body shop and had them add Verica Salt in big bold letters across the bottom of the windshield. She was furious and demanded they remove it, but my uncle simply told her that if she did anything to get rid of it he would sell the car and she was welcome to buy one with her own money, so she dealt with it. My sister wanted everyone in her wedding party to do a 6 a.m. yoga class on the day of her wedding. Everyone was tanked at the rehearsal dinner the night before, no one wanted to get up at 6 a.m. We all told her way ahead of time we all hated this idea. She stomped her foot about it anyway. There was puke. Just to add, she asked me to be her mo when I was living/working in the Philippines and she was home in upstate New York. I told her I couldn't commit to the responsibility of being mo. She said she couldn't believe I wouldn't move home for something like this. We didn't talk for 4 months. I did end up going to the wedding but as a normal guest. She still tried to make me do the yoga class. I refused. She didn't speak to me all day on her wedding day. I was okay talking to the other 300 people there. Now that you ask. She has moved on to complaining about how hard it's going to be to have a baby not being rich. Our girlfriends from high school are extremely well off, like trust funds in the millions types. We are not. Loudly crying face so they have nannies and lots of extra help. My sister and her husband make good money. $350+ between the two of them. I know this because she loves to talk about it. Anyway. Being that she's 31 and her husband, I think is 40, I asked about kids and she seriously sat on phone for 5 minutes complaining about everything she wouldn't have that our friends do. Also complaining about paying for her 90K wedding. Face with tears of joy. I'm making her sound awful, but she's actually extremely funny and kind-hearted. Just really self-absorbed. Once you get around that, she's awesome in small doses.